Mazie Hirono,
Senator from
Hawaii, who said, men just need to shut up. Mazie Hirono said something yesterday that I find a bit confounding. It doesn't surprise me that she would say this.
I wouldn't have believed it if you had just told me, hey, this senator from Hawaii said this. I would have said, really? I don't know if I believe that or not, but I've seen the video.
What she's basically arguing,
saying it.
She says we know so much. The problem with Democrats the reason the Republicans on occasion have majorities is people are stupid and their message is simple. And for Democrats to be successful, our message is so complicated and intellectual that we got to have voters who understand it. So the reason when the Republicans are in control of the House of Representatives and Senate, they're in the control of the Senate now, so that's where her ball game is. That's what she cares a lot about. She's arguing that the reason Republicans are in control of the Senate is basically Republicans have a stupid message that relates to the stupid voter. And Democrats' message is so complex and intellectual that people just don't understand it. If they understood it, there would be no doubt they'd vote for it because it would make their lives better. Because I, as a senator, I'm equipped to kind of navigate these real intellectually difficult waters. The arrogance of that public servant. I was thinking about our debate yesterday. I want to pose this question. We're talking about servanthood. What is a servant? A servant is a person who performs duties for others. And then you've got like a follower of Christ. We were talking about, the baby Jesus this morning. A servant is a devoted follower in that regard. Textually, that's how you explain servanthood. I want to pose this question because I think you get a bit put off. And you don't like when I don't have reverence for the pomp and circumstance that we've seen on full display over the past couple of years, or couple of days. Yep. In regards to George Herbert Walker.
Because I do.
Bush.
I like it, and I appreciate it. Respect for the presidency, respect for the man in this case. And so I have no problem with the suburban motorcades. I enjoy watching it, and I appreciate it.
I have a lot of respect for the office of president. I have a lot of respect for George H.W. Bush. I'm disgusted by the motorcades. I'm completely and totally disgusted by the motorcades. And I want to pose this question because we had this kind of an extensive series of segments yesterday on, is America today an aristocratic society, or is it, a democracy or a republic? Is it a republic, a democracy, or an aristocracy? I guess to some degree, that's the question we posed yesterday to our listeners. I'm arguing that it's more of an aristocracy than it is a republic or a democracy. Now, in fairness to those who argue, no, it's not. It's a democracy. It's a representative republic. If the Congress has a 17% approval rating, and it were truly a democracy, truly a representative republic, if the Congress had a 17% approval rating, then how many incumbents would get reelected?
Very few.
Well, about 96% do.
I know. That's our fault.
It is our fault, but it's an aristocracy. We've allowed money and the ability to raise money dictate who wins and loses elections. Every time I say this, I'll hear somebody will say, well, Cortez won. Eric Cantor got upset. Okay, those are the outliers. Those are the abnormalities of our political system. The U.S. Congress today has a 17% approval rating. Somewhere in the neighborhood of 95% will get reelected. That doesn't happen in a fair and representative republic. That doesn't happen in a democracy. When people think so little of the job you're doing, they find somebody else to do that job. The aristocracy component, Rev, is about fundraising. Because OpenSecrets.com did a real extensive articulating of fact and data telling us how much of an advantage the incumbent has. Once you get to Washington, once you rub shoulders with a lobbyist, once you rub shoulders with the elites, once you become accepted in that world, you're set. You're going to be hard to beat. It's not just, you hear me a lot say, hard to beat an incumbent. Well, it's not hard to beat the incumbent if his approval ratings are 17% as a whole. It should be fairly easy to beat somebody who has that low. Nancy Pelosi's public approval rating today is about 22%. She just got elected Speaker of the House, or will be elected as a formality Speaker of the House. Explain that. If it were a democracy, if it were a representative republic, why do we elect somebody to lead the House of Representatives who 78% of America don't give a rat's rear end for? It's an aristocracy. And here's the question I'll pose as it relates to motorcades. And then we'll get to Mueller, and we'll get to Macron. I want to make sure we talk about France, because nobody else is talking about it. Nobody else is talking about what's going on in France today, the Champs-Élysées. I like saying that. Let's go to the motorcade. I want to ask you about 3 questions about public servants. Should a public servant make 4 times the median income of the average working American? I mean, should public service pay that well? I'm not talking about a bureaucrat running an agency. That guy's doing a job. I mean, he's coming to work every day and he's doing a job. He's running the Office on Aging. He's running the Department of Revenue. He's running the Department of Immigration Services in Washington. He's managing, whether we like the way he does it or not, he's managing the IRS. There's a job he's doing. All right, let's go to public service. Someone who is an elected representative in the body that is our Congress. Should that person be making 4.5 to 5 times the average income of the working American? If we're going to call him a public servant.
Yeah, I don't think
should that person have security detail?
In some instances. I mean, if security is
a public servant
is an issue, I know, but you can't be vulnerable.
Should the CEO, should Bill Gates have security detail?
He can pay for it.
Okay, let's use my guy. Should Springsteen have security detail?
And he can pay for it, too.
You get that. They're public figures.
Sure.
They'd be harassed in the public. Should a public servant have security detail?
Sometimes they need it.
I disagree.
So you don't think a president needs Secret Service protection?
For life? For life? I mean, do you know how many Secret Service agents came with George W. Bush and Laura Bush when they came back to Washington? I think it was 13. There are 13 Secret Service agents on standby right now for a former president, protecting him for the rest of his life. That isn't public service. That's an aristocracy.